Well, welcome back to Gardener's Cottage here in Blakeney. We're going to give you a garden update now. We're in late November, right in the middle of a UK lockdown, so we haven't had guests here at the cottage for the last two and a half weeks. And we still have got some rather lovely Nereens which are flowering very late. They do very well here in Blakeney. The milder climate tends to let them flower, as this one is still doing. Lovely. Look at the colour in that bud. Absolutely spectacular variety, and still only just starting to open out here. Some bud flowers still coming up. But that's not the only flower we've still got going in the garden. So let's take you around and show you some of the jobs we've got to do and some of the colour that we've still got on show here. The front of the cottage, most of the flowers have now been cut down. The Banks luteae rose around the front of the house and the windows has been given a good trim, because that does tend to get very heavy. At this time of the year we're all just tidying up leaves and keeping the gravel in tidy condition. We get a good dropping from the pine trees above this. And also at this time of year the last of the crab apples are just stewing on the tree, but most of them are now fallen foul to the blackbirds and pigeons. Still a little bit of colour on some of them though. Got more of those Nereens here in the back garden as well. Forgotten we planted these here. I think I probably looked at these earlier in the season and thought they were Agapanthus. But these are the Agapanthus that we've planted out now. Going deep yellow, crimson and orange, the foliage on those. It won't be long before that needs tidying up to leave the crowns. Incredibly, we get away most years. We're leaving these geraniums out all season. In this back sunny aspect they tend to just about keep going without going underground, and it does give them a jump the following season when they come back into flower about a month earlier. One of my jobs for today is to give these fig trees a really good pruning. They really love the sunny aspect on the southern aspect of this house, get baked every year, but they are quite vigorous growers. And we need to take these back. It breaks my heart to cut all those young figs off them, but the majority is going to have to be cut out to bring these back down to around 7 to 8 feet, and to also bring them back in against the house so that they don't start limiting the access to this patio area. Most winters here in Blakeney we have Rosebud right the way through winter. Only in the hardest of seasons do these brown off. This one's particularly lovely. Just look at the colour in that bud. There's quite a decent flush of them. Nothing like you get in high season. But looking out through these French windows from the kitchen, these really pop. There's a couple of icebergs still just on the back climbing, just giving us another little splash of light colour against this dark emerald green foliage of the buddleia that's now almost in rest mode for the rest of the season. Colours almost going out of this autumn joy sedum now as well. They'll brown off gradually over the next couple of weeks, and this beautiful crimson will fade for yet another season. But above it, another little rose, still with some good bud formation coming on. That's one of the exceptional things in having a walled garden, and a lot of these things do keep going later than would otherwise be the case in a more exposed position. Also quite pleased with these grasses that we planted in here for the first time earlier in the season, hoping these are going to stand over winter, and they should be lovely. If they get any frost in this garden they should just again pick the light up very nicely and give us that little bit of contrast against the dark green background that we mainly have on the back end of this garden for most of the year. The Cyclamen, which have been so wonderful towards the end of September and throughout October, are now again just coming to the end of their flowering season, putting up this mass carpet of variegated leaf, which is attractive in its own right as we tidy the fallen leaves off the cherry above it and the flowering pear. And coming through those we've got the lovely seed pods that are just picking up the light so well. and will leave those in position. They've now dropped their seeds. Young plants are starting to come up where they have seeded into this ground, and they should be nice again throughout the winter until they get a bit moth eaten, and then we'll tidy them up. This hedge just on the eastern aspect of the property has got one of these lovely winter flowering daphnes in it. Scent off this is lovely. It's starting to brown off in parts. Beautiful pink flower buds that emerge from the wood with no leaf at all in situ and give scent and flower throughout the winter months. This little hebe is also giving us a splash of flower just down here. Flowers at this time of year, and then it's just green for the rest, but worth growing just in this position, just again to give you little bracts of frond-like flowers that last for about 2 to 2.5 weeks. And the last thing I found to show you in November here is this Finka Major that creeps along the base of this little flint wall, and again just peppered with the occasional flower throughout winter. So a few jobs to catch up on here in Gardener's Cottage. We're going to crack on with some of those this morning while we've got the opportunity of just tidying this garden up and getting it ready to welcome guests back again, hopefully before Christmas.